Hello, podcast listeners. This is your host with the most, slurring his way through this episode of JJ Meets World. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this story about drinking. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Tucker, I made a mistake and I need to own up to it right at the very beginning of this podcast because this one's going to be rough.
Okay.
Tucker and I are recording this on a Friday night. We normally don't do evening recordings, and this is probably the reason why. We arranged this earlier today and I completely forgot about it. And
Okay.
I'm drunk right now. It's been very snowy and I had to go out and I cleaned my whole driveway and I had to scrape the snow, and then I walked into my garage and I realized, God, I got all this stuff in my friggin' garage that I need to bring in. Like, we've got a carpet shampooer that you can't have out when the temperatures are freezing, right?
Sure.
And so I get all that stuff moved and I come inside and it's Jill's birthday tomorrow, and excuse me, I was thinking to myself, oh, I got to get all this stuff taken care of. You know what I deserve? Because I had a long week at work and it's going to be a long weekend and I did all this stuff today. As I deserve a Bloody Mary.
Oh, okay.
And that turned into a couple Bloody Marys that were very strong and full of so I'm not a big Bloody Mary fan to begin with, but I also hadn't had dinner yet. So I thought that's the best thing about a Bloody Mary is dinner.
Yeah, and you're also, and I'm not trying to insult you, but you've always been a lightweight.
Oh my God, so light. I mean,
yeah,
that's the thing is I am a baby. Like, NyQuil will put me out for 12 hours.
And
right?
Again, I don't mean this as an insult, but if someone were meeting you for the first time and judging a book by its cover, they'd be like, this man could probably take some alcohol,
right?
Just because, size, height and weight and all that.
I've got plenty of space to hide it.
Yeah. But no, I can't, I'm trying to think if I've ever, when did I last see you drink? Was it the film festival that we worked together and we did that really expensive shot with some person?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Remember that woman bought me that shot and then she brought me up to her hotel room, but not to get with her, but to get with another person who was actually previously on the podcast. That was weird. So I thought, since I'm already 3 sheets to the wind, maybe some drinking stories would be fun for this podcast. Because as I said, I totally forgot, and I got to kind of make it up as I go along right now.
All right.
So let's start. Let's start with the drunkest I've ever been. And Tucker was talking about it. So we worked at the Fargo Film Festival, and the last night of the festival, after the final film of the night, which is usually like a big production, starts at 7 or 8, it's just celebration afterwards, versus the rest of the film festival, you're working until midnight and then coming back at 7 o'clock in the morning. So there's not a lot of chance to go out and party if you're working at the festival. So the last night of the festival, everything goes, it's a good festival. Everything goes well. And we go out to the Hotel Donaldson, which is now defunct. And we start drinking. And the Hodo made a couple drinks I loved. One of them called the Cucular Cali. And it was it had a bunch of different boozes, but specifically a lot of cucumber like vodka and stuff like that. And the Cucular Cali tasted so good. That's my problem, is that when that's why I don't get drunk off of things like bourbon, because I think it tastes gross. So why would I want to drink more of it? But when I am drinking something that tastes delicious, I want more of it. I think that I would be a wino if I poured wine and it tasted like Welch's grape juice, but it doesn't. It never, tastes like that. So I proceed to start drinking Cucular Callies, and then I drink Hurricanes, and then I don't know what happened. So starting at about like 11 o'clock, I'm checked out for the night. I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you how that night ended. They're kicking everyone out of the Hodo, and I am still doing ballerina moves of some kind in the main area, and I called a line bender, Britta, to come pick me up. So Britta picks me up. I don't know why I didn't call Jill, because I had her take me to Jill's apartment. And this is what?
This would have been
2008, 2009?
Okay.
Maybe, right?
Oh, before maybe. I think 2008 is right. That sounds right to me.
So Britta picks me up, and
might have been earlier than that, but anyways.
I've got 2 bags in my pocket. One bag has got Starbursts and one bag has got Skittles. I proceed to start eating those and being like, let's listen to some Rent. You got Rent? Where's your iPod? I want to listen to Rent. She did not have Rent. So we motor back, and I step out of Britta's car. Now, remember, the Fargo Film Festival is in March, so it's still very much winter. And as Britta puts it, I disappear. I've slipped on the ice and somehow fallen underneath the vehicle. And I've spilled Skittles everywhere. And so I grab Skittles out of the snow and pop them in my mouth. Now, again, I have fallen under the car. So the car is on the street. We put salt on the street to keep things from freezing. And I am eating snowy salt mixture with Skittles. And I remember it being gross. I go up, and Jill hasn't heard from me for hours, so she has no idea where I am, or that I'm even planning on coming to her house for the most part. And you need to know this, that 2 months earlier, as like a Christmas gift, her parents had given her a brand new mattress. So I walk in there, and I can barely like get my coat off, and Jill's like, "Oh my God, you're drunk." And I'm like, "You bet your bottom I am." And I lay down on the bed, and I do this, bucket, never mind. And I throw up all over her bed. And it's the kind of throw up that pools. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's not like I projectile vomited onto the wall. I threw up enough that it's pooling. And Jill's like, "Oh my God." And she makes me get to the bathroom where I throw up some more into the toilet where throw up belongs. And then she has to clean up, and I can hear her crying while she's cleaning up. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And she cleans the bed and puts new sheets on, and we get in there, and she gives me a bucket. And the next day I'm so hungover, and I'm so shamed of what I've done. And I puked enough quickly. And again, remember, I had just been eating Starburst, which are very brightly colored. So you can only imagine what my vomit looked like. I could really taste the rainbow.
Yeah.
And I stained that mattress real good.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I went all the way straight down to the brand new white mattress. And
Did you buy a new mattress?
No, I didn't. I just, but like, here's the thing.
JJ.
Every time she changed the sheets, she had to look at that stain. Right?
That's why I'd be like, "Darling, I'm so sorry I've destroyed your brand new, let me get you a new one, the exact same thing. I'll just replace the exact same thing."
Dude, you and I both worked at the Fargo Theater. I did not have that kind of money.
That's true.
By the way, also, because I am inebriated, I thought to myself, I want some wings. So
That's
also
always the trap.
Right. I'm also watching my Domino's pizza tracker while we're recording this.
Where's he at?
Right now is on quality check. Trinity is quality checking my order.
And what are the rigid quality standards that she needs to put that pizza through?
Well,
it's from Domino's?
At Domino's. Would you like to know what I ordered?
Well, apparently you ordered really flavorless pizza because you got it from Domino's.
Oh, but listen, man, sometimes it's the best.
when you're drunk, any pizza's good.
Here's what I have. Because I also had a free pizza from them, so that kind of goes into it too, right? Like I'm going to give them a free za. I ordered a medium 12-inch handmade pan with robust inspired tomato sauce, ketchup, which light, extra cheese, pepperoni, well done. So they leave it in the baker a little bit long. And then a 12-piece bite specialty chicken classic hot buffalo, 2 sides of ranch. And then because I love myself, I also got myself a Domino's marbled cookie brownie.
JJ, you said the magic word, ranch.
I know. I love ranch.
I made it. I made some.
You did.
I did. I followed your recipe.
And what'd you think?
And well, it was, first of all, yeah, you were right. It's the way to go. Forget ever buying store-bought ranch. I'm sorry that you don't have some of your own ranch for you to use, and you're going to have to get whatever the packets come.
I know the cups are so bullshit because when you open them, there's pressure inside the cup. So no matter what, a little bit's going to out of there.
Yeah. I was not ready for how smelly buttermilk was.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've never, I was like, oh, so that's what that flavor is. That's what ranch is.
Yeah.
It's that thing.
Buttermilk is the sweaty crotch of dairy products.
It is. But I get why it goes in for a ranch. I totally get the flavor. However, for me, 2 packets was way too much.
Oh, too much?
So it was too much. So I'm going to do another batch, but I'm going to do just one packet. However, I also would like to try the variation of it with sour cream instead of mayo.
Yeah.
Because I love sour cream, and it makes it more of like a dip. They like a thicker dip, right? Not as of a runny dip that like the mayo mix gives you.
Yeah, you also might experiment a little with the old Greek yogurt.
Ooh, I like that idea. I'll have to do that too. I do also now, though, need to invest in some mason jars because I don't have like a really good container to keep this ranch in.
Tucker, you are my friend. And I have so many mason jars.
Yeah.
And I've got lids. And I even have mason jars that have chalkboard paint on the top of them. So you can write the date that you made that on the top of the lid.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm going to hook you up so fat, brother. You're going to have jars for days.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Also,
man, you are drunk.
I want to share with you a recipe that is a big hit in the Gordon household right now. Okay. So we also love homemade ranch, as we've discussed before, but this is for a cucumber dill dressing that is ranch, but also has the sweet taste cucumber, which I don't know. I know you don't like pickles, but do you like cucumbers before? Well, do you like pre-pickle?
Okay, so I would totally be into trying what you're talking about, because here's the thing with cucumbers. I can get past eating them in some things. Like I've had cucumbers in like sushi rolls that I don't really mind it there. Is it sort of is it being sort of like the crunchy, vegetable that's there. But in most cases I don't like cucumbers either.
Hey, hold on one second. It's Miller time.
Oh.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. But I do love what cucumbers do to a gin and tonic.
Yes.
So there's that cucumber flavoring I think I could get behind in some situations, and I would absolutely try it in like a dill ranch. Like I hate dill pickles, but I love dill. I love dill bread. Yeah. Love dill bread. So
okay, check this out. It's 1 English cucumber, 2 tablespoons green onions chopped, a cup of low-fat plain Greek yogurt, a half a cup of sour cream, half a teaspoon minced garlic. I use a full teaspoon. 1.5 tablespoons lemon juice, 1 tablespoon white vinegar. I use apple cider vinegar. 1 tablespoon fresh dill minced. I've used dry dill and it's just fine. 1 teaspoon salt and a half a teaspoon pepper. So all you do is you take the cucumber and then you use a spoon and you pull out all the seeds so it's kind of hollow, and then just chunk that up, and you combine all these things together, and then you kind of like salt it to taste. So like if you want it to be a little saltier, add some garlic salt to it or some onion salt, one of those. It is so flippin' good. Like you can dip in it, you can put it on stuff. It is, I mean, it's a condiment of the gods.
Could you sub the minced garlic with that powdered garlic instead?
You could absolutely. You know,
Because I love minced garlic, but it's rare that I keep garlic cloves. It's rare.
Oh, dude, you should pick. There's a huge difference in like the stuff you can get in the jar versus fresh minced garlic, but you know those jars keep for friggin' ever.
Sure.
So, and you just get that in your local grocer, and if you can't, be like, why not? And they're like, dude, we are a gas station. You don't want to buy garlic here, and you tell them, you don't tell me my business, and then go out behind the dumpsters and see if you can find some old pizza boxes.
You know, JJ, I want to say that film festival might have been 2007. You're saying the drunkest you've ever been was 2007?
Yeah,
Really?
Without a doubt. I mean, there's also the summer that I ran for mayor, I got pretty drunk, and I jumped out of a moving car. And then I ran down this like ditch and I fell over, and then someone was above me, and I thought it was like a transient, like a hobo with a bindle. And so I straight kicked that person in the chest and sent them flying.
Oh my God.
And it turned out it was Natalie Deutsch, and she was there to help me. And she had a big boot print on her coat. And then the next day I woke up and my phone was missing. And this is like at the very beginning of like PDA smartphones. And so I had spent like $1,000 on this phone, way more money than I ever should have. And it had like a stylus built into it. It got real hot when you used it. It's probably like 2 inches thick.
Spends $1,000 on his PDA hot phone, but won't buy his girlfriend a new $500 mattress. He just vomited all over.
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, it's priorities. But I was also able to find that phone. We went out the next day and found it. Also, the next day, okay, so I found that. What else did I have to do? The next day. So apparently, I had been yelling that, you know, like a transient was trying to get me, and the next day, Travis Steffen and Phil Lund built me what they call the JJ3000, because at the time my license plate was JJ2000. The JJ3000 is a solid oak axe handle with no axe head on it, but a chain wrapped around the top. It's got like a really nice like a rope thing so you can hang it. And it says JJ3000 in the stickers that you're supposed to put on the side of your boat up and down it. So it's the type of, really, like, if you've seen the modern Walking Dead, the Negan bat that he has is pretty much like the next generation of the JJ3000. And now when I go on, like when I'm gone, Jill uses that as her protection in the bedroom when she goes to sleep. So if someone breaks into the house, they're gonna get a whooping. Now, do you? I know another time I was with you where we were both in fact, this is another time I got pretty drunk.
You're talking about Albuquerque, aren't you?
No, that I thought we'd save that for last.
Yeah, we can save that for last.
That was a great night.
Fucking Albuquerque. We'll save Albuquerque for fucking last.
The Halloween party at your house.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
Where we all dressed up as characters from Frisky Dingo.
Yes. Yours was you and Brad, I think, really took the cake that night. I'd say you both kind of tied for like most dead on creation of a character from Frisky Dingo. I just rewatched a few episodes of season 2 the other day on DVD, and that holds up, man.
I mean, you can see where Archer was born, right? Like when you watch that, like that was them learning to walk before they could run.
That may have been because we threw a lot of really good parties at that house when Brad and I and a number of different people went through as the third roommate. But that may have been the best one. I remember that night being an absolute awesome, crazy party. The kind that you go, how did the cops not get called on this?
Yeah, 100%. And some of the things that stand out from that night, not only are Frisky Dingo characters, and I loved dressing up as Wendell. I thought that was to me, that was a great character. I remember when he slides down that like rope because he's the security expert, and he's like, I should have wore gloves. And he's burned up his hands on the rope. So some red letter moments from that particular Halloween. Number one, that was the first time I ever kissed a man because
Yeah.
Matt Burkholder and I kissed that night.
It wasn't like a romantic thing. Matt was walking around and kissing everybody.
Yeah.
And so he went up to JJ and grabbed him and kissed him.
And he was also dressed as one of the main characters in Frisky Dingo.
Killface.
Yeah.
Killface, the villain.
And he had white makeup everywhere. So like he rubbed off onto everybody.
Yeah, I think he turned and kissed Carissa right after that because I was taking photos of all of them.
And I don't remember who brought it, but we also drank absinthe that night.
Yep. Matthew's boyfriend at the time, Michael was the guy's name, was visiting. Oh, no. He had been visiting and he had brought absinthe and Matthew still had it. So we drank absinthe, but I don't think it was psychoactive.
No. In fact, I'll tell you about the time I drank absinthe that was psychoactive after this.
It just tasted like Jägermeister, but slightly different.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it tasted like to me.
I remember Brad Delzer being a real stick in the mud.
Really?
Yeah, like he was a like by the time like the night was dwindling down, he was a real pain in the butt.
Really? Okay. I think there's good thing there's no chance in hell he listens.
Yeah, he doesn't listen to this podcast. And then there was a friend of Sabrina's who brought like dirt cake, the kind of, it's like chocolate cake with chocolate frosting and it's got like gummy worms.
Okay. All right.
And I remember her feeding that to me out of the pan itself, like with a big like spoon, like the kind of spoon you'd use to stir soup. And I also took a picture of Tucker's wiener by accident.
Yep. By accident,
yes.
You were hiding in the shower and I came in to pee and you waited for me to start peeing and then you pulled open the shower curtain and you took a photo.
But like, okay, I will say this in my defense. The only way I got the picture of your wiener was through a reflection in the mirror, and I'm not that good at staging something like that. And so for a long time, I had a picture of the tip. And you're also dressed like in a tuxedo.
Yeah. I was so drunk, and when I break the seal, I have to pee like every 30 minutes. So like if I'm drinking, once I'm peeing, I'm like, oh God, I got to keep going back and forth. So I was probably on trip number 5 to peeing that night. Great detail for everyone, I'm sure.
Well, those are the things that I think are important to a lot of people is the
but it, fair is fair though. I have so much footage of your testicles.
You do so much.
So like if anyone is listening and it's like, oh my God, that's a terrible thing. Yeah, you normally wouldn't do that to someone else, but it's mutually assured destruction with JJ and I, and so it's totally fine.
Yeah, and like your footage, like some of your footage of my my brothers downtown comes from when I was dressed as a giant baby running through a park. So like it just popped right out because I was wearing baby's clothes, man. I don't fit in baby's clothes.
Yeah. Well, but also you put that costume together though.
Yeah.
I said we need you we just need you dressed as a baby, and you were like, okay, I'll go to a thrift shop, and instead of buying what I thought you were gonna do, which was take like a big sheet, and like fold it into like a big cloth diaper or something, you bought a little like onesie covering that you use to cover a diaper. Like you put a diaper on a newborn baby and then you put this sort of cloth cover on top of it.
Yeah, it was really cute because it had a little
you
elephant.
bought one of those,
yeah, it had
and then you squeezed
on
yourself into it.
Yeah. And see,
but because you have no ass though.
Right, exactly. Because there's nothing in the trunk, I was able to get it over the engine. Yeah, and then I also got a little shirt that said "Thank Heaven for Little Girls."
That's right.
Oh, Jesus. And I also had a little bonnet.
Do you still have these things?
No, they're long gone. In fact, the third time we were going to attempt a baby bumpy thing, I remember pulling it out and thinking like, can I still fit into this? And I got like it's like it's a diaper cover is what it is.
I loved because we had talked about a number of different topics of like what would the next Baby Bumpy short film be, and there's like the baptism one where like Baby Bumpy's clothes are all going to come off, but my favorite one was when he was going to have a play date.
Yep.
And the play date was going to be Davey, previous podcast guest Davey Brunsvold, who was going to be like a slightly older kid, but like a little Lord Fauntleroy type, in like a tiny sailor's outfit, because both we'd already established that Baby Bumpy's father, who dresses in military uniform, is not actually a member of the military, but loves to engage in historical reenactments of military maneuvers. And so that day he was going to be hanging out with his buddy, who I think was going to be Steve Poitras,
Previous guest Steve Poitras,
in full like French Admiral Napoleonic garb. and then it was just going to be a whole thing of like these two rival babies, basically.
And I love the idea that like Davey would break a lamp and then he'd be like, the baby did it, and keep blaming it on me. And like it would just escalate that by the end of it, like the FBI raid the place and they and like they take him away, and I'm all happy. There's another one that I really love too, about me being inside a daycare looking like with a bunch of kids, looking out the window, and there's an ice cream truck and my face is like pressed against it, and the guy who's driving the ice cream truck like waves, but he's kind of evil, and he like takes out a like a drumstick cone and he starts eating it, and like, oh, it's so good. And like I keep like, now my hands are pressed against the glass and it keeps escalating, and the final one is he goes in the back and he pulls out like a bomb pop and he turns around and I'm not in the glass anymore. And like he turns around and it's just my face coming so quickly towards the camera.
Right.
Well, I loved little Baby Bumpy. That's a great idea, Tucker. That was a wonderful idea.
We talked about, I think, well, one point we talked about one of like Baby Bumpy going to daycare. And so it was Baby Bumpy with a bunch of other kids, but the kids would all be actual children.
Yeah.
And you would be the only adult child. But
I love the way Greg delivers the line in the second one of the like, he wants your melon. He loves melon. He's just so funny. Okay. Oh, also the day after, so I used some like grease paint to draw in these gigantic eyebrows for the character Wendell. This is that Halloween party again. And the next day, it's like 10:30 in the morning, and we've all woken up. I stayed the night. I slept on the couch, and my phone rings, and it's my aunt. And she's like, hey, you're supposed to be at Cass Public Health right now. Because at that time, I was getting ready to go to Africa as a filmmaker for this documentary. And so I'm like, oh God. And so I try my best to wipe that stuff off, but it doesn't. And so I go in my costume, which is a blue misfitting windbreaker and khaki pants, and what looks like just a big smear of brown now across my forehead. And I proceed to get shots for tetanus, malaria, like two other things. And so I become violently ill because I'm also still probably a little bit drunk. And that was another good time when I got really, really drunk. Now, Tucker, let's talk about another film festival drunk that you and I enjoyed in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah. Well, we both got drunk, but let's be honest, JJ. One of us got drunker than the other.
Yeah, it's true.
And that person is not you. So we were there. So basically, the reason we're in Albuquerque was because we had competed in the 48-hour film competition and had won the Fargo contest. And so we made another movie and sent it to this sort of like all of the city winners would get together. And that year it was in Albuquerque. Long story short, Jage and I go out there and realize we just don't belong with anyone out there. And so we basically just kind of go to hell with all these things that they have going on, these meet and greets and stuff. Let's just go see Albuquerque. So we go have fun in Albuquerque. The last night we're there and we're like, you know what, we should put forth some effort to like say hi to a few people and like say hello and quote unquote network or whatever the shit they call it. But we're like, hey, let's get drunk first. because, hey, that's a good idea, right? Let's get drunk first. And so we go to the bar across the street from the bar that they're having this thing at, and we do shots of tequila.
Yeah.
And I think we each did 2 shots. And then we walk across the street to the other bar and find out, we're assuming we're going to have another drink there, but we didn't. But the whole thing was sponsored by the Boston Beer Party, so there was free Sam Adams, and then other stuff too. And so we're hitting the free Sam Adams, but then JJ, as we're talking to people and getting friendly, JJ is just like buying other drinks for people now, right? And so JJ's the guy who's buying people drinks. Well, that's where the party's at, right? So JJ's buying me drinks and everyone else drinks, and we're all drinking the free beer plus the stuff that JJ's getting us. I remember, I think it was almost midnight. I remember looking up at the clock and seeing midnight, and then my brain going, you're in trouble with how drunk you are right now, and you need to get the fuck out of this situation. So I turned to you and I said, JJ, I'm too drunk to be here anymore. We got to get out of here. And you immediately said, let's go. And so we just left. Like, you'd already paid and we just left. And then so I'm following you.
Yeah.
Because I'm so drunk, I can't tell where I'm going. So I'm focusing on your shoes walking in front of me, going, okay, this is JJ's shoes. I know JJ's shoes. I'll follow JJ's shoes. And so I'm following your shoes. And this is on was this a Friday night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Friday night in downtown Albuquerque. So the place is hopping, right? There's people everywhere, and it's the middle of summer, I think. So it's nice out. It's gorgeous out. And I am so drunk. And so I just remember we were walking for a bit, and then I realize, it's going to happen. It's happening right now. And so I said, JJ, hold on. It's going to happen right now. And you said, all right, buddy, do what you got to do. And I walk up. I see there's this little tree standing in front of me. And my whole world in that moment is this tree. It's pretty much the only thing I'm aware of really exists. I'm like, oh, hello, tree. And I lean against this tree and I start to vomit at the base of this tree. I don't know how long I'm going for, but I empty my stomach. And then I look up, and how when you're really, you're so drunk that you have to throw up. So you're super, super drunk. But then after you throw up, there's a bit of clarity, right? Because you got rid of a bunch of stuff and your body just kind of did a thing. So I throw up and I gain some clarity. I'm like, oh, okay. I remember where I'm at. I know what's going on. And I stand up and I look at JJ. And not only is JJ filming me on one of these little point and shoot cameras, because we didn't have phones that could record video yet, but we could have these little Canon point and shoots. He's filming me. Not only that, we are 5 feet away from the giant front window of this really fancy restaurant.
Yeah, I mean,
that is
Tucker,
filled.
It's not a front window. The entire corner of this building is all glassed.
It's all glass. It's all glassed in. Think of that scene in Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
when he's running away from the demon and he's pounding. It's like that. People dressed to the nines, eating fancy food with champagne, and they are looking at me vomiting in front of all of them. And so I give them a wave, and you're laughing, right? You stop filming and we walk away. And I'm thinking, well, at least I'll never see those people again. Well, in fact, I would, because that restaurant was in the lobby of the hotel we were staying at. So we just did a little U-shape where we walk around and then walk back in the front door of the hotel and past the opening of that restaurant. And everyone's looking at me again as I'm walking through. And then we went upstairs, and then you ordered room service, and we ate burgers and fries, and then I passed out.
Yeah, it was delightful. And then tell them about what happened the next morning.
Well, the next morning we decide we're going to go see a movie. And so first thing we do is, as we leave the hotel, I'm like, I want to see if my vomit's still there. So I don't know why I wanted to see that. So we went and saw it. It was still there, and it was like undigested sweet potato fries. So I guess I'd eaten sweet potato fries at the party. So then we go and we see the movie. Then we have to come back to the hotel to get our stuff to head out for our flight. And that entire little walk area way was roped off with yellow police tape. And there was a crime scene there. There was an investigation going on. And I'm like, oh my God, my vomit's in a crime scene right now. Am I going to are they going to sample my vomit and see if my DNA matches like someone or something? Never found out what was going on, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, if I were you, I probably wouldn't, commit a crime in Albuquerque because somewhere your DNA is now being stored in
I
the
just assumed
database.
that I guarantee you the government has my DNA in all sorts of different ways, more than likely.
In other things.
So,
yeah. I'm also going to be the person who says this. I don't like drinking. I don't find it to be pleasurable. I find it to be a huge waste of money when it comes down to it. And, and I've got friends who collect beers from all over the world and people who have extensive whiskey collections. And good for them, but that is not my cup of tea. I prefer a good Diet Coke and that's about it. When I was in, which is why it's so odd that I wanted a Bloody Mary so bad tonight.
Well, I think it was just, you were like, you know what? I'm just at a tension level, and every once in a while, you're definitely even doing more than moderation with your drinking, right? So I think you're totally safe. I'm Scotch Irish, so I love a good night of drinking with my friends for fun. The thing I don't like, the thing I despise more than anything, are hangovers. And I'm not a lightweight, but I'm also not like a huge party animal. I wouldn't be able to drink you under the table, but I could outdrink JJ, no question. But I'm like a normal person basically. But the hangovers I get are, I think, twice as bad, if not 3 times as bad as how other people describe their hangovers. My own father, whose genetics I have mostly inherited, does not get hangovers. And I cannot stand that about him. Like that he's like, yeah, I don't really get hungover. And I'm like, how? Because you get drunk, man. Like when you get drunk, you get drunk. Not like he's a drinker, but it's just, I don't understand. I don't understand how people can not get drunk.
You're right. Like when that guy decides to tie one on, like he decides to tie one on.
He's a lightweight. And so he'll just go straight to like Jack Daniels, right? He won't like do beer. I usually do beer. Like I'll do, I might, if I go have a meal with some friends, I may have 1 or 2 beers and then just call it quits at that. I'm not looking to get drunk. The slight little buzz I get from it, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And that's it. But I'm also getting full at the same time. But I also have really bad reactions to a lot of hard liquor. Like when I first started drinking, I was only drinking hard liquor because I thought I would never like beer. And so I would get like flavored vodkas and stuff.
Ugh.
But I would it would create really terrible, like acid reflux and like chest contractions and stuff. And it would feel like I'd kind of lose. It was a weird sensation I deal with. But that wouldn't happen with beer. And so I became a beer drinker, but any given month, I'd say I average maybe 1 beer, 2 beers, maybe.
The first time that I ever remember drinking was I was 19 years old, and over Easter I went to visit my friend Taylor up in Toronto, and I was like, Taylor, I don't really drink. And she's like, I'll teach you how to drink. And I started drinking amaretto sours at this like drag.
She started you at that?
Yeah, at this like drag bar. And I remember being like, oh, this is sweet, but also weird at the same time. And so I remember thinking that those aren't great. And then they used to make this like, technically it's called like, it'd be considered a wine cooler, but it was a carbonated alcoholic juice called Sublime, and they don't make it anymore, and you'd buy it in the 6-pack. And I had this horrible girl situation, and I locked myself in a room and I listened to like sad music, and I drank a 6-pack of Sublime. And I remember that was like the first time I like remember getting like drunk, and I was probably 20 years old, almost 21 at that point. And it's just never been part of my identity as, like, oh, JJ's a big drinker. And partially because of this, I am a binge drinker. So when I start, if I get to the point of where like I'm tipsy, I will continue to drink and I just won't stop.
Oh.
I go from 0 to 100.
Well, here's the thing. In all honesty, so many people are like that because so many people are like that who don't routinely drink, because that means that it's so novel, that feeling that you get, that it becomes intoxicating in more ways than one. You just want more of it, right? Your judgment is out the window, and now you're just chasing that kind of high that you're getting because it feels so different than your normal life.
To me, then there's a social aspect about it too, right? So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
Drinking alone, I'm never into that. I just don't like it. I don't want to do it. But drinking with friends, that's amazing fun. Especially drinking with coworkers, drinking with people who you want to commiserate with. That's some of the best drinking.
Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
When like all four of you are like, fuck that person, let's go drink and bitch about them. I fucking love that shit.
Or like, I thought back in the, when we were younger, one of the things we used to do is go to our friend Justin's house in way south, his parents' house in way south Fargo, and his parents were cool about people drinking in his garage, even if they're underage. And that was the place everyone went, and some of the best times of my life were there. That was the first time I ever saw anyone play Edward 40 Hands, where you take 2 40s, which is malt liquor, and you duct tape them to your hands, and so you can't pick up anything else until you finish your 2 40s, which is a lot. Each of us 40 ounces. That's 80 ounces of malt liquor. And then I also saw a great thing one time where our friend Jared was there, and our friend David Brunsvold, also on the podcast, went to pants him and pulled down on his back 2 pockets, but instead of the pants coming down, the seams just ripped away. And so he ended up with 2 perfect tears straight down to his ankles. So it looked like he was wearing chaps. That was amazing. And like our friend Sean, when he gets drunk, he like people take advantage of Sean and make him like do stuff that they think is really funny, and it's not humiliating things. It's just like the Beagle Boys from DuckTales. Like the little one is like, he's got kind of like a high pitched voice, and so when Sean gets drunk, we get him to go like, "You ain't taking away my life, Scroogey." And he usually does, "Yank!" And then we laugh, and he can't get further than that. It's great.
You know what the best place to drink is, though?
What is it?
Vegas.
What?
Vegas.
Vegas
is my is is the most fun I've ever had. The first time I went to Vegas was with you. You brought me there to treat me for my 21st birthday. Yeah. I had a ton of fun drinking there because I wasn't a gambler, but I also had no money to gamble with anyways, so it wasn't like I was going to. But I didn't know how to play poker yet.
Yeah,
and so I pretty much just like you guys would go play whatever, but I would just like go to the bar, and it was fun. It was really fun because I would, it's Vegas. It's like a 24-hour party, and so there's people from all over the world at like every bar you go to, and everyone's really friendly and like is chatty, right? And so I remember just that one night we walked almost the entire strip, it felt like, and we went from casino to casino to casino to casino, and I don't think we once even touched a door handle, right? That was just how much flow of people was going on between it. It was just everything was open, and so it felt like, even though these were all separate buildings, it gave this impression to drunk me of like they were actually separate rooms in one gigantic building. And so it felt like we were at like the biggest like good vibes house party I'd ever been to. And I've been back a few times when I, worked the poker gig and stuff, and always a ton of fun. I don't know. I know that Albuquerque drunk was not the drunkest I've ever been. It's in the top 5 for sure. But I also gauge the drunkenness, the level of my drunkenness with how excruciating the hangover is the next day. And the hangover after Albuquerque wasn't good. It was bad, but it was not nearly even top 10 bad for me. The absolute worst one was in downtown Detroit. And it was my second Heartland Poker Tour event. And they flew me out a few days early because since I was the newest employee at that time, there was some sort of regulation thing I had to go through, sign some documents, do something. And so they flew me out a day early to do that. And so my bosses picked me up and they're like, hey, let's go to the bar. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And so I'm sitting at this bar, this like little Irish pub in downtown Detroit, few blocks away, not too far away, but a couple of blocks away from our hotel. And my boss, one of my bosses, is just buying all the liquor, and he's just saying, whatever you want, get it. And he's like, I'm having or he was having Jameson. You want Jameson? I'm having Jameson. You want it? And he would always like push the thing he was drinking too. So like, sure, you're buying it, I'll drink it. And I bought a shepherd's pie and I ate it. It was delicious, I remember. The last thing I remember was looking at my boss and him telling me why he thought I shouldn't vote for Barack Obama. Because that was when he was that's when he ran against McCain. And my boss at the time he was a Republican, and obviously, but I was trying to focus on what he was saying. Like I was having trouble understanding what he was saying, and I remember just looking like at his face, trying to follow the words, and it was like a light switch. I swear to God, it was like a hard cut in a movie from one scene to the next. The next thing I know, I am in my bed in my hotel room, fully clothed, covered in vomit everywhere, on me, on the blankets, on the wall, on the floor, everywhere. And it reeked. It would look like World War III. And so the rooms we had, they were suites. So they had a bedroom and a living room. And so I balled up everything that was the hotels, and I brought it into the suite. And I just thought, okay, I'm gonna let it sit in the living room here so I can just sleep in this bed. And then I'll ask room cleaning, and I'll leave them a really good tip because they're dealing with something awful. And I washed myself, and then I fell back asleep again. The next day, I was so hungover. And it was my first time being hungover in a casino. And this is Detroit, and this is not a big casino. So I am walking through slot machines, right? And Plinko games or whatever else is being played, different noise making things everywhere, every smell you can think of. Everyone's smoking cigarettes everywhere, right? So it smells like that. And I can barely function. And I'm thinking, fuck, I'm going to get fired. I have to work today. And I am so hungover, I can barely function. And I remember walking up to Fred Bevel, and he goes, oh, there you are. What happened to you? And I said, I don't know what happened. And so Fred fills me in on like missing time that I don't recall at all. And after he tells me it, I go, God, am I going to get fired? And he goes, are you going to get fired? No. And he starts laughing, and he goes, oh, that's cute. You think you're going to get fired for getting drunk on the Heartland Poker Tour? No, you're fine. But I guess what happened was, so I guess, my boss, Greg, was buying us Jameson at that pub. And so I just got really drunk, and then we closed the tab there. And then a bunch of the other guys were at the bar that's in the hotel lobby. And so we went there, and they told me that when I walked in the door, I raised my arms above my head and shouted, I am the Whiskey King, which I don't remember. And then they said I was having trouble sitting on one of the stools at the bar. And then before they knew it, I was gone, and they didn't see where I went. And at one point they were like, shit, where'd Tucker go? And they didn't know where I went. So they were looking under tables. They asked like the waitress to go look in like the women's restroom, to see if I'd like wandered in there on accident. They can't find me. And so they're like, well, hopefully he shows up. Oh. And so so somehow I left there and figured out how to get back through the hotel again to the elevator, was able to figure out what room I was in, and get in. I have zero memory of any of that. And that was the very first time. And really, I think the only time that I really blacked out from drinking. where I was like a drunken zombie who had no idea what was going on.
Dude, I love that.
And that was downtown Detroit. Like, I was very vulnerable.
You know, I think we should count ourselves lucky because we've never been put into a situation while drinking that has been horrible. You know, like I am never someone who, when I drink, will try and grab my car keys, right? Like I know that I shouldn't be driving, and I will never be the person who gets behind the wheel of a vehicle. Other than thinking that Natalie was homeless, I usually keep my composure pretty in state. I don't wake up with random bruises or, I'm always surprised at some of the stories you hear the next day. In fact, I want to end this podcast with the story of the time I drank absinthe. So my sister and I took a trip to Scotland years ago to kind of trace back some family stuff. And we had a friend who was studying abroad in Edinburgh. We had a friend who was was in Northern England. And so he came up and met us in Scotland. And so we're hanging out, we're having a good time. And we go to this little bar that's in the basement of this really old building. And the bartender, we're like, hey, we're from America. And he's like, and he says, well, yeah, have you guys been drinking absinthe yet? And I said, no, I thought that was illegal. And he goes, it is, but we all have it. And I said, oh, that's kind of like moonshine. My friends in Kentucky have that. And he's like, I don't know what that is. So he goes, would you like to try some? And he goes, and this is this isn't the watered down stuff that they can sell on the, in the United States. This is stuff that you could go blind from drinking this. And so I was like, let's do it. So all of the members of my party take a shot, and I'm there with my sister, Sean, Jason, Rachel, and then of course me. So there's 5 of us, and we all take the shot. And nothing happens. And so we get a shot of whiskey instead. And then we're drinking, I discovered ciders while I was there. And we get home, and my sister and I are telling my mom about the trip. And I'm like, yeah, and this one night we did absinthe, but it really didn't do anything. And Chrissy goes, what? And I said, yeah, the absinthe, it really didn't. None of us got really messed up. And she goes, JJ, you don't remember what happened that night? And I said, what? And she goes, you had a conversation with a radio in the bar, like a back and forth conversation where you were telling them about an idea you have for a sitcom. And then you'd stop talking and you'd nod your head and you'd come back with like, right. Yeah. Cause he was in that show. Yep. Exactly. So she's like, we were freaked out. She's like, didn't you think it was weird that we went back to the apartment right after that? And I said, I didn't really think about it. She goes, yeah. And then you kept talking about how like you could connect with our ancestors. You were really messed up. And I said, that's not what I remember. I said, we did that. And then we drank some ciders, and then we went home and we had falafels. And she goes, we didn't eat falafels. And she's like, I stayed really sober that night so that I could help you get home because you were just gone. You were hallucinating.
I think you like switched consciousnesses with another JJ in a different dimension. And so you remember what that JJ would have been doing.
Yeah. Like sometimes you just got to go along for the ride. So,
the very first time, by the way, before we end this, I need to get this on the record, is that the very, very first time I ever got drunk was at your apartment. And that was when I was all sad about, breaking up with the bassoonist after high school and stuff like that. And I was all mopey and shit. And so I was like, I'm going to get drunk. And Phil Lund was like, I'll buy you a beer. And so like, oh, thank God, Phil Lund. And so he bought me a bunch of Guinness. That's what I wanted to drink, was Guinness. And then there was other booze at the party. And so I was probably taking shots of other stuff, but primarily drinking Guinness beer. But then I remember at one point, I think you put in like a Stephen King like series that was like short stories or something. And we all just started watching that and like eating potato chips.
Yeah, I think the only thing about drinking that I really do subscribe to is the eating while drinking, because you make some great drunk choices. Some like really good drunk choices. Oh my God, so good.
You're not saying me specifically. You're saying the royal you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We all as a thing.
Here, another reason why I need to not get drunk is I drunk text. And that is what I regret the next day. That is what I'm like, God damn it. Why did I do that? Because I get really honest when I'm drunk.
Remember when I text you that photo of me, like I'm naked on the toilet, and then like there's a full length mirror all the way across the bathroom from me?
I mean, you're saying that as though there was only one instance of you doing.
Do you remember one of them?
Sure.
Yeah. See, like I wasn't drunk at all, and I sent that. Hey, my pizza and wings and brownie / cookie contraption are here, so I'm gonna go and eat those. But hey,
you enjoy that.
Have a great night, and I'm so glad I got to spend time with the Whiskey King. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. If I could drink with one person, living or dead, it would undoubtedly be Gadget the mouse from the Rescue Rangers, because I think that, like, after a couple of drinks, she might see me in a new light.